And welcome back to the GSMC Wrestling Laureate Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your favorite wrestling fan here, Eric Rodriguez, every Monday night live on the GSMC Sports Network, 8 p.m. Pacific Time, 11 p.m. Eastern, here to talk about the greatest thing in the world, professional wrestling, all the action inside and outside of the ring, all the backstage curtain calls, all the rumors, all the dramas, all the conspiracy theories. We talk about superstar inactive statuses, injury updates, contract negotiations, extensions, and new signings, also releases. We also talk about AEW, TNA, Ring of Honor, WWE, obviously, Stardom. If it makes major news in the world of professional wrestling, we cover it here on this show, 1,010%. So make sure you guys Superman punch that like and subscribe button to the show. Share the show to a fellow wrestling friend. And, hey, tune in on Monday nights and we all could have a conversation. Make sure you guys hit me up, sound off in the chat section. Tell me how you guys feel about what I'm saying. Or just, a point that I miss. I am human, so if you guys want to, throw a bone to a show host, 1,010%. It'd be much grateful. All right, we got Gunther news. Gunther suspended, written off of WWE. What? Dealing with an injury? What? It's not that. According to reports, he's taking some time off, and he deserves it. He deserves it, 1,010%. There's nobody that deserves time off more than the workhorse that is Gunther. But that spot on Monday Night Raw, I gotta be honest, was a little shocking. It looked like maybe there was some kind of realism. I know Pat McAfee is, I know he is, he's an entertainer. He knows that realism within any kind of cinema, whether if it's film, television, or even radio and podcasting. You know what I mean, or social media. That what gets the fans into it. His face was basically turning purple. You can definitely tell that probably before the segment, before the spot. He told Gunther, he's like, look, man, we got to make this real. His boys jumped over the guardrail and I personally, like, the way I saw it, I thought it was like an actual fans coming up to try to help Pat McAfee. Like it was that real, and it looked like the WWE security was getting pretty physical with them, and that's exciting. That's cool. That's awesome. That's something that I love about professional wrestling. Blurring the lines between fiction and reality. That's what we signed up for. But Pat McAfee, I feel like this was. I feel like overall, obviously trying to help out his boy, Michael Cole. He has a respect for Michael Cole. Michael Cole is a huge, Pat McAfee fan. They're basically best friends. They co-host Monday Night Raw, on the Pat McAfee show. He's, Michael Cole has been on there a couple of times. Michael Cole has actually been on Impulsive as well, the Logan Paul podcast. So Michael Cole went from after WWE started going international through Netflix, he was just solamente like a WWE guy. And now you're seeing him on ESPN. You're seeing Triple H on ESPN. You're seeing wrestling talked about on ESPN, where back in the day, that was like a no-no. That never really happens unless something big happens at WrestleMania or something with The Rock, then they'll get attention from Scott Van Pelt on SportsCenter or something like that. But usually that's not how it goes. And Pat McAfee is a huge, he's a pivotal piece in ESPN right now within the sports, with the sports media industry right now. I feel like, he did host the draft. He was there on Thursday from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Maybe this was a way to kind of write off Pat to be like, look, the draft ends on I think Saturday or Sunday. I only watched the first round. That's it. And I'm like, oh, whoever, which Shador Sanders got drafted, on the third day, which is, kind of crazy. But, make sure you guys tune into the football podcast hosted by my man, Matt Quinn, to find out more about that. But overall, I feel like maybe this was a way to be like, look, man, I'm not sure if I'm going to make it, if I'm going to make it to Monday Night Raw. So, as a potential, maybe not, let's just have me, choke the F out and, I'll miss a week or whatever. Pat McAfee at the draft, actually, there's been quite a controversy, quite a stir. I guess a fan took a picture of him, smoking something. Looked like a vape. Maybe it could have been something like CBD, like cannabis or something like that. And then, quickly kind of put it away. But, it's not how it used to be. Definitely with, with medical marijuana and stuff like that. And, recently in wrestling, WWE, they dropped the ban on, medicinal marijuana. So, a lot of people kind of use that instead of pain pills. prescription, pain medication, instead of using pills. You can smoke some herb, I guess. They're not really my style, or not something that I would definitely push as a philosophy of mine. But it is what it is. It is what it is. To each your own. To each your own, guys. That's just how it goes. But Pat McAfee has actually created quite a stir, because this was not really the first time that Pat McAfee has really done something kind of like far-fetched and out there. He had like I said before, he represents ESPN. He's a very pivotal piece in their sports media. Has a 5-year contract, $85 million to consistently keep his show going. So homie's a player. College Game Day, he referenced he drank a beer. And maybe like sports media is still, maybe it's sensitive, maybe that they don't want people doing that. But nowadays, where you can get your sports at literally absolutely anywhere, there's so many sports podcasting in the sports media industry isn't what it was back in the day. There was very few news media sources, but now it's just like so wide open, to the point where, like, if you're having a guest, do something like this, it's not really bad or anything like that. Maybe it's I don't want to say cutting edge, because it's just different, and it needs to be different. I remember Colin Cowherd actually said, and he I definitely agree with it 1,010%. Don't worry about being right all the time. Don't worry about being right all the time. Definitely do your research. Definitely, make sure what you're spewing out isn't propaganda, isn't false news. But on top of that, the most thing you really got to do is be interesting. Be interesting, 1,010%. If somebody needs somewhere just to get statistics and information, you can literally Google something on Sports Illustrated, ESPN, and then bam, there it is. The same person talking like a robot. Oh, he had 3 catches this day. Or Tiger Woods hit another hole in one. Or, something like that. It's you just got to make it interesting. And Pat McAfee, if you ever tune into the Pat McAfee show, or you see him on wrestling, you watch him on wrestling, he makes it interesting. So, definitely tip my hat to my guy. And right now, ESPN, in terms of the sports media, seems like they are kind of, Pat McAfee has been, it's been reported that he is feuding with Stephen A. Smith right now. Recently, he had an interview with LeBron James where they did mention, the fellow ESPN sports guys. You never really want to kind of throw your coworker under the bus or anything like that. But obviously, because of LeBron James's personal feud with Stephen A. Smith, bringing up Bronny James, and all that kind of stuff going down, like it's it could definitely Pat in like some hot water, but I feel like it will be kind of blown over. But I definitely love seeing Pat McAfee on Raw. I don't want to see him go anywhere else. He says according to reports, that he's good to go tonight, so we might see him on Raw tonight. Like I said, I have not checked Raw. I have not watched it yet. Can't wait to see if Pat McAfee's on there. Other than that, might be Joe Tessitore, might be Corey Graves, but I don't know. Who knows? But anyways, Gunther, the former WWE World Heavyweight Champion, chokes out Pat McAfee. He gets choked out at WrestleMania, losing his World Heavyweight Championship. I gotta be honest, I really did not like this spot that Gunther was he was choked out. He tapped, like, what's Jey Uso hitting a sleeper hold? Like, dude, like, no Uso splash, no speed. Well, of course that was, it led up to it, but at the same time, it was like, dude, you really kind of had to steal the guy's mood to, obviously, maybe like a poetic justice of what this is what he did to Jimmy, but I don't know, I just didn't really like it. I thought it made Gunther, I don't know, kind of made his championship reign be like, oh, crash and burn. He's held the World Heavyweight Championship for over 258 days, and he was the Intercontinental Champion, setting the record for 666-day title run. So Gunther, like I said before, if there's anybody who deserves some time off, it's this guy. It's the ring general who has been carrying Monday Night Raw on his back. Because you got to remember, last year's WrestleMania, people were injured. CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, all Monday Night Raw stars, and then you have Gunther with the title. Damian Priest did a pretty good job holding the title as well. Obviously, Finn Balor screwed him over in that, but Gunther has been very entertaining. He's been one of the best heels. He's been such a bad guy. He's been like this, in a comic book or in a Marvel movie or Batman movie, whatever. He's been that, that classic He's been that classic villain that we love to hate, but then some people, they have a niche for sometimes what the villain is doing in his head, it makes sense, and he sometimes it might appeal to a smaller niche audience. But then some people could route behind Gunther. I love Gunther. I think he puts on. There's not a match Gunther has that is bad. Like I said, the WrestleMania 41 one with Jay was yeah. But besides that, this guy puts on bangers after bangers, and nothing but good things to talk about Gunther. But he's been written off of WWE. He basically said in an interview that he plans to still wrestle for about 12 more years. Going to retire around the age of 50, so it looks like we're dealing. We're not dealing because it sounds like I'm painting a negative perspective of it. Look, we're granted, we are privileged to get another decade of the Ring General, and he's great. He's great, and hopefully he, has some, take some time off, have fun with the friends, family, whatever. See each your own. I heard Jokic during the NBA offseason, he likes to hang out with his horses in Serbia. So, like I said, to each your own. Whatever happens, whatever makes you happy, man. Do what makes you happy. All right, so without further ado, we're going to jump on into our fourth segment. We have men's post-WrestleMania pressure cooker. I have 7 superstars in the men's division that really has to make the year 2025, early 2026, their B word, and we're going to talk about those guys when we come back. So grab your favorite snack, grab your favorite ice cold beverage, and join me here in about 25 seconds, or actually this one's a short one, for like 15 seconds, and I will see you